Let's start our press conference. We are having Russian PR Vassily Nebenzia as the speaker. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Once again, good afternoon. I'm grateful you came. These are unprecedented times, as you know, and also unprecedented was what has happened yesterday and today. Unprecedented, unbelievable, unthinkable that we were denied a Security Council meeting that we requested today from the British presidency. I remember in my times here, I had emergency meetings of the President of the Security Council on many issues, including on weekends, including on holidays here in the United States, and we never objected to it. This thing that happened, that is something that is unbelievable and unprecedented in the history of the United Nations. That is the fact. I heard today's press conference by Barbara Woodward, and I heard questions she was asked, and I heard answers that she gave, and I didn't hear some of the answers that she was not able to answer, frankly. So I would like to tell you before we have a meeting tomorrow on a few things which are very important to get through to you, through the press, through the media, about what is happening and what has happened in recent days around Kyiv. On April 4th, the Kyiv regime, with an active support from the Western sponsors, started to promote in Western mass media fake news about alleged atrocities of the Russian military forces in the town of Bucha in Ukraine, which is a suburb of Kyiv. From the very beginning, it has been clear that this is nothing else but yet another staged provocation aimed at discrediting and dehumanizing of the Russian military and leveling political pressure on Russia. And I assure you, I don't know, I'm sure that not many of you know about the Russian military, but Russian military is nothing and has nothing what it is being accused of, in particular in having cruel atrocities against the civil population. It is not the case, it will never be the case, and it was never the case. We have factual evidence that proves this point. We intend to present it to Security Council as soon as possible, so that the international community is not misled by the false narrative promoted by Kyiv and its Western sponsors. To this end, the Russian Federation requests a Security Council meeting to be convened at 3 p.m. New York time on April 5th, today, to discuss this heinous provocation by the Kyiv regime. I would like to emphasize that we did it as early as on 2:51 p.m. on Sunday, full 24 hours before the requested meeting. So the UK claims that we asked for a meeting too late is misinformation. Our efforts have been met with the fierce opposition of the UK presidency, with the support of other Western delegations, namely US, France, Ireland, Norway, and Albania. They tried to invent an invalid and lame pretext not to convene this meeting on Monday, insisting that it should be postponed to Tuesday. The UK ambassador keeps claiming, and you could hear it at her press conference earlier today, as I said, that they wanted to have a more informed meeting with this UN Secretariat as a briefer. This is a lie. We have never objected to having a briefer on Monday, and it is the obligation of the presidency to arrange for that. From our side, we didn't request a briefer. During the Russian presidency, we duly arranged for such meetings at the request of the Western delegations, even in the middle of the day or night, regardless of a very complex geopolitical context and constant provocations vis-à-vis our country. I would like to stress the UK presidency openly rejected our request to convene the meeting on April 4th, and they did it twice. Since the situation around Bucha kept evolving overnight, today we requested an urgent meeting of the Council at 3 p.m. However, the presidency took the liberty to qualify that there is no reason to convene an emergency meeting. As they put it, the UK does not believe that the situation in Bucha is calling for immediate attention of the Security Council. This is a unilateral assertion of the UK presidency, not a decision of the Council members. You can see clearly now what a rule-based order promoted by the UK and other Western countries means in real life. It means them imposing comfortable rules with total disregard of international law and established rules of procedure of the UN Security Council. This behavior is very illustrative and reveals true attitude of the West to the Ukrainian people. While blocking the discussion on Bucha, a clear-cut provocation in classic Goebbels-style risking to have serious implications for international peace and security, the Western delegations rushed to convene a Security Council meeting on the education of girls in Afghanistan some time ago. So you can see where the real priorities are. The reason why the Western delegations do this is very simple. It would not benefit Western cause if the Security Council meeting is convened by Russia, since this would shake anti-Russian narrative they are comfortably promoting. The Western delegations prefer to blend in the situation in Bucha with the discussion of the humanitarian situation at the meeting they convene tomorrow, to shift the focus away from the staged provocation by the Kiev regime. To this end, the UK, by its own discretion, added our agenda item to tomorrow's briefing. We have never approved that. Yet another illustration of their behavior. I would like to recall Rule 2 of the Provisional Rules of Procedure of the Security Council. It is explicit that the Presidency should call for a meeting at the request of any member of the Security Council. What we see now is a shameful and unprecedented abuse by the UK of the President's prerogatives. At the same time, this is a demonstration of weakness, showing that the Western delegations had to resort to this maneuvering to try to shut the Russians' voice. It only proves the point that the Western delegations care neither about the real situation in Bucha nor about the Council authority. Abusive, condescending, colonialistic line of the UK presidency is undermining the very foundation of the UN, and we will yet to assess the implications. The presidency is entrusted by the Charter to lead the Security Council. The UK failed to lead. It is a disgrace for the British diplomacy and an undeniable stain on its reputation. Given negligence of the UK presidency, we decided to convene this press conference to shed light on the Western-backed provocation of the Kiev regime in Bucha. I would like to present you to the real facts about Bucha. During the time that the town has been under the control of the Russian armed forces, not a single local resident has suffered from any violent action. For as long as the town was under the control of the Russian armed forces, locals were moving freely around the town and using cellular phones, so they could post in the social media any photo and video footage on any theoretical harassment, if this was the case. However, that didn't happen. Let me address the developments in the chronological order. On March 30, following another round of talks in Ankara, Russian Ministry of Defense have announced the withdrawal of forces from a number of regions, including Bucha. That fact was confirmed the next day by the mayor of Bucha. In his video on March 31st, Anatoly Fedoruk presented the withdrawal of Russian forces as a victory of Ukrainian army. Interestingly, he had not mentioned any mass atrocities, dead bodies, killings, graves, or anything like that. It is hard to imagine that a city mayor can forget to address such a devastating scenario. Let me show you the video posted by Mr. Fedoruk. As you will see, he looks happy and smiling. It is hard to imagine that he is acting like this against the backdrop of a massacre in the streets. Перевод есть?
Дорогі друзі, шановна Бучанська громада, 31 березня віде історію нашого населеного пункту всієї територіальної громади як день звільнення від російських орків, від російських окупантів нашими Збройними силами України, наших населених пунктів. Тож сьогодні констатую, що цей день є радісний і велика перемога наших Збройних сил на Київщині. І ми обов'язково
I will not translate it, that's in Ukrainian, but that's what I said. He's happy that the Russian troops withdrew, and that's a great victory for the Ukrainian army. And nothing mentioning about any atrocities that happened in the city. This video was posted on the Ukraine 24 channel on the 1st of April, and I would like to stress nothing about atrocities was revealed on April 1st. Let me show a photo of Jean Belenyuk, a deputy of the Ukrainian parliament who, according to his reports in social media, visited Bucha after regaining control by the Ukrainian government. As you can see, he is also smiling. He is joyful. In his reports, he mentions no dead bodies, not a single reference to atrocities. Давайте, Федь. On April 2nd, the National Guard of Ukraine posted on official resources a video from Bucha. Let me show you the footage. The video captures members of Ukrainian armed forces entering Bucha. The footage shows no dead bodies in the streets. The Ukrainian military interviewed several people in different locations across the town. None of them said a word about any massacre or mass killings. Camera also captures videos behind these people with no dead bodies inside.
Треба буде якась допомога, чи що, скажіть, що ми будемо там і будемо тут для нас, якщо ви щось необхідно допоможе.
That is in half Russian, half Ukrainian. Все надо? To sum it up, there are no reports of the atrocities which are accredited to Russian military in Bucha, which happened before Ukrainian army took the control of the city. 4 days after the Russian military left the city of Bucha, there was not a single sign of atrocities. I repeat, not a single reference to it anywhere. The infamous video depicting bodies on the city roads only appeared on April 3rd. It is full of discrepancies and blatant lies. According to its authors, the bodies were lying on the streets for at least 4 days by the time the video was filmed. However, the bodies are not stiffened. How is that possible? It is against the law of biology. The bodies do not have signs of decomposition known to forensic experts, including cadaver stains. The wounds contain no blood. Another point illustrating that this video is fake. The Ukrainian forces use either blue or yellow armlets or stripes because members of the Ukrainian militia do not always wear military uniforms. Local civilians in Bucha wore white stripes on their support arms, on their upper arms when the Russian forces were stationed in Bucha. That was done to prevent misidentification of civilians from members of the militia. When Ukrainian forces entered the town, they fired at the people with white stripes, killing the civilians. There is a video showing a conversation between members of Ukrainian units. It was published in social media by the so-called Territorial Defense, a radical nationalist fighting group. One of the radicals asks if he can shoot at the people without blue stripes. The other confirms that this is permissible. Russian speakers know that, but let me translate for the rest of you. Question behind the scene. There are folks without blue bands. Can I shoot him? Can I shoot them? Answer, of course. I hope the evidence we demonstrated today leaves you with no illusion that the video circulated by the Kiev regime is a crude forgery. It doesn't stand any scrutiny. However, some Western leaders, for example, German Federal Chancellor Olaf Scholz, French President Emmanuel Macron, and of course British Foreign Minister Liz Truss, have already lined up to promote this false narrative. What happened in Bucha is exactly a false flag attack by the Kiev regime and its Western sponsors. The possible goal of this provocation is horrifying and brings back the nightmares of the Nazi crimes during the Second World War. Vladimir Zelensky, once he arrived in Bucha, hinted that this incident justifies any uncivilized response. By this, basically, he confirmed that the Kiev regime considers genocide as a method of warfare. Now the nationalists have a pretext to commit a real massacre of innocent Ukrainian people, executing them as traitors. We want the world to stay alert, and we call on the Council not to let this horrific cleansing to happen. To conclude, I would like to reiterate that the Russian military forces act in strict compliance with international humanitarian law and do not target civilians and civilian objects. If we were pursuing aggressive goals like those of the US-led coalition in Iraq, the scale of losses and devastation would be worse by digits, like in Raqqa and Mosul, that were bombed by the US to ashes, killing thousands of civilians, including women and children, whose bodies were left unburied for weeks and even months. I think that you will hear from me more tomorrow because more information is coming, and I think that the truth that what happened in Bucha will reveal itself very soon.
Let's follow for the questions.
Thank you, Fedor. Thank you, Ambassador, for this press conference. On behalf of Anka, Valeria Robecco from ANSA News West Service. So my question is, do you think that what happened with the meeting in the Security Council that didn't happen because Great Britain said no and the UK said no, and the fact that the United States' intention to pursue Russia's suspension from the UN Human Rights Council, do you think that these actions can undermine the negotiation effort for a humanitarian ceasefire, and what are the next steps you're planning here at the UN?
Of course they do. Of course, Human Rights Council is not our piece of cake, so to say. We are in another format. But I think that that this is again unbelievable what the West and the rest are trying to do with Russia today, trying to exclude it from whatever multilateral forums we are having in the world. I think yes, I'm saying yes to what you're saying. This is again unprecedented, and this will not facilitate or encourage or be helpful to what is happening between Russian and Ukrainian peace talks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. On the other side, the Ukrainians have presented footage of people, Ukrainians who've said that their loved ones have been killed by Russian troops, civilians not doing anything. And also their footage, the footage that's been shown. We've seen a little bit that you've shown, but do you consider that the statements of these women and family members who've watched their own loved ones being killed by Russian troops are fake?
Look, this is a warfare, and in warfare anything happens, and you cannot exclude that civilians are dying in a war, and that is a sad fact of life. But the footage that we are being presented with, in particular in Bucha, on which I spoke, does not give us any doubt that that was a stage. That was a stage, and we will present more evidence on that tomorrow when we speak in the Security Council.
I'd like to ask you one follow-up question. The Ukrainian Prosecutor General, Irina Venediktova, today told Ukrainian television that the situation in a town called Borodyanka may be worse than Bucha in terms of people who have been found killed. That town was also occupied by Russian forces until recently. Do you know anything about that?
Frankly, no. I just hear it from you as you speak. Yes, Pamela.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Fedor. Thank you, Ambassador, for the briefing. It's Pamela Falk from CBS. My question is about Bucha. There are pictures, there's eyewitness evidence. What are you saying about how this happened? And you did show us pictures of 2 pregnant women who were fake photos, and we saw one of them give birth and we saw the other one die. Why do you believe that the pictures and the story you're getting right now and telling us are true about Bucha?
I just saw a footage today on the Russian television of the lady that gave birth in Mariupol, and she admitted that that was a fake. She's a Ukrainian blogger named Mariana, I forgot her surname. She admitted that was a fake, that she was made to make that footage. Now, if you look carefully at what you see in Bucha, about the corpses that lie on the streets, that were never existing before the Russian troops arrived, before they left, and suddenly they appear on the streets, lying on the road, one by one, right and left. Some of them are moving. Some of them are showing the signs of life. You cannot escape from an understanding that that is a stage. That is a stage, that is a fake, that this is a provocation, because as I said, and you know it perfectly well, that besides the warfare, we have an information war, and the information war is raging, and we have evidence that that was premeditated. That was arranged by the Ukrainian information warfare machine, so to say.
And that, therefore, you're blaming the Ukrainians for actually putting these bodies there?
One thing you cannot deny is that Ukrainians are using people as a human shield when they hide behind them in buildings, in what do you call it? In residential buildings, which they use to call fire on themselves.
The second woman who was pregnant, by the way, did die.
What?
The second woman in that photo died, and the baby died.
So, if that is the case, I'm sorry for her. I really am. You may believe me.
But part of the question is then the bigger picture. Martin Griffiths just came from Moscow. Is there no resolution to the? Is there any possibility of a ceasefire?
And the question is, from which hands she died, by the way, because they claimed that it was the Russian airstrike, while the evidence shows that the building doesn't show the evidence of the airstrike, that was an explosion. But in any case, on Martin Griffiths, on the resolution, we offered a resolution last week, which they rejected. They said no, because Russia as an aggressor cannot offer anything. We are trying to get people out of cities and provide them with free evacuation, which they also deny. They say no, Ukrainians can only leave to the West. They cannot leave to Russia. They have no right to do so, despite the fact that 500,000 Ukrainians are already in Russia. And believe me, there is no xenophobia to Ukrainians in Russia, and it has never been, despite what is happening with Russians around the world today. Perhaps last year, but let's be frank, and I'm grateful to the Americans that they are not up to that. But what is happening in Europe, how they treat Russians only because they have Russian passports, that is incredible. That is unbelievable. I leave aside the issue of sanctions, which are beyond any understanding, but the way they are treating the people in Europe, the Russians, is something that goes beyond any understanding.
Well, since you brought it up, why?
Shervin, please.
Thank you, Ambassador, for doing this. Just two questions. Would Russia, for example, welcome an independent investigation? You talk about the misinformation wars, the fog of war. It's difficult to understand who's giving you facts and who's not, right? So would you agree to an independent mechanism to investigate the atrocities that we both can agree are happening in Ukraine? And then a second part, sir. What is so egregious about the 24-hour delay? To help us understand, this meeting that you requested for today is happening tomorrow. So what is so outrageous about this delay?
Look, the question is who is doing the so-called independent investigation. We've seen lots of independent investigations which were not independent at all, because they are politically motivated, biased, etc., etc., etc. What about the meeting? That is absolutely clear. What the aim and the idea is about it is not to let us to present our views and to go ahead with their own interpretation of the situation. But I'm afraid for them that by tomorrow many things will come to surface which they wouldn't like to hear. So perhaps they lost time not to having meetings today and postponing it till tomorrow's. Thirdly, I do not recall not just in my memory here, but in the procedure and tradition and rules of the Security Council, that the presidency would deny a country a meeting whenever it wants to, because the council should meet, if that's an emergency meeting, in 3 hours after the announcement. And I've been in these situations myself many times over. I heard your question today that you asked Barbara. I listened to the interview, which she never answered. She never answered. I mean, we've been accused of atrocities. We've been accused. We are being accused of not observing the rules of war, etc. You asked about Raqqa and Mosul. What did she answer? She just evaded. She went sideways. Anyway, let's see what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow you will hear more from us. I promise that I'll be more factual, even more factual than today. Thank you very much.